I said, let's do something together, and we sort of began without really knowing where we were going, but he was wonderfully just trusted me to do whatever I wanted, never interfered, never asked me what I was doing. He just said, you might want to talk to this guy, and I talked to one person or one artist or one curator, and they say, you should probably talk to so-and-so, and they kind of went on from there until I ran out of time and out of money, and then I had to make a movie from all the interviews that I had. That's
so
kind
how
of
many years ago did you make this movie?
But we finished it the end of 2014, beginning of 2015. It was really in 2015, but I needed the copyright to be 2014 tender in certain festivals, so I kind of fudged it.
Mm-hmm. So you actually traveled to Iran?
I actually didn't go to Iran. I went to all the other, New York and London and Paris. But Iran, Parviz's daughter, Tanavoli, was living there, still is, and I moved there recently, and I asked her to film the scenes with Parviz and his students, because at that point it was pre this agreement with America and the rest of the world. It wasn't as loose about having people come. Even though as a Canadian, I was welcome to go, but you can't really have a camera outside, and you can't be filming people because they think you're part of the CIA or the CSIS, which is the Canadian version of that. And I didn't want to go to jail for an art documentary. I felt it had to be more significant.
I think that's reasonable.
So does anyone have any questions about the film or anything? Yes?
Has there been any recognition in Canada since this film? Has there been a shift? Because it's extraordinary to sail under the radar.
It's beginning. I was showing yesterday in Toronto at the Alcacon Museum, and he's installed 3 sculptures, quite monumental sculptures out in the garden around it. I don't know if any of you have seen the Alcacon Center Museum there. It is stunningly beautiful, and it's incredibly modern, and it's only a few years old, and his works look so beautiful there. He's got a stainless steel heech that's about 15 feet tall. It's absolutely gorgeous, and lovers and a poet. So he's got 3 books, and it's a huge site garden. And he launched a book there, and the turnout was phenomenal. Quite a few Persians in Greater Toronto, and so I think it's sort of it's an educational process. I mean, his work. If you look at what makes a work popular and sort of accessible, he's got all the criteria. It's historically significant work. It's aesthetically sophisticated. It's popular. It's in galleries all around the world, and it's valuable in terms of monetarily. So all those criteria that normally would make a work of art sort of well known to people are there, but there's something missing. And I think it's kind of, from my point of view, and I'm an outsider in the art world in a sense. I think the curators in Canada are not that educated outside the Western European kind of world. That's what they grew up knowing. It's probably what they studied. Middle Eastern art wasn't on their agenda or their educational agenda, and so they're kind of late to the game. So I think some of them almost can't be bothered because they know what they know and they don't want to go back and learn something new. I mean, this is just totally my theory. I wouldn't actually even say this to some of the people I know in the business would take offense to it. But I do think there's an element to that because they're quite willing to embrace Asian art now, but that's because the Asians are coming into Canada, just streaming into Canada, and there's a fair amount of money that comes with them. So they go, oh, we should get to know the Asian art so we can get the Asian money to help us, develop gallery spaces and things like that. So it's kind of, I'm not trying to be cynical about it. I just think that's the reality, and the Persian community has been very quiet in Canada, and they're not flashy. They do their own thing. They're successful, and they probably haven't been as proactive in promoting their artists as some other sort of cultural groups might have been. That's my theory. I think he was thrilled to be included in the Museum of Anthropology exhibit because the work was finally sort of shown on the given the stature that I think it deserves. And I think that's wonderful. And I think it's incrementally getting known. That there's been, a number of shows. There was one in Wellesley last year in Boston, Wellesley College and Davis Museum, where they had a big show, retrospective of his work, and it was absolutely beautiful to see his whole career in one big room, to see all these pieces. And I'd seen a lot of them beforehand, but to see all of it together, it was just awesome. So anyone that saw that couldn't not be moved by it and not want to share it with somebody. So it's just getting enough galleries and museums to take the initiative to sort of examine that part of the world. And then the audience will come, because you can't not be moved by it. That's sort of my theory. Yes?
The issue of people that are copying can come up during their interview and film. People are copying him, each or...
I know, it's funny. Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. And somebody told me the other day, literally just the other day, that in Iran, there are people that are mimicking hijas, and they're putting them on display. I'm not sure whether they're pretending they're his, but they're certainly using that motif as their own. And I'm not sure how that works in Iran in terms of copyright and passing off something as yours that isn't.
You didn't mention anything yourself?
No, we actually never talked about it. In fact, I haven't talked to him about it because I just learned about it the other day. So, I mean, he was at the showing yesterday in Toronto, and it never came up with anybody there. But I think it's an interesting thing to sort of discuss. And I think, I think anyone that knows his work knows that he's been doing the Heech for such a long time that for anyone to pretend that they didn't know, pretty tough.
Any more questions? One last question before we go.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, what other films you've made? Are they mostly art films? And I'm curious whether this is hopefully going to be shown on Canadian TV at the very least. Or
I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. The film, my previous documentary, I've worked in different areas of film in the last sort of 10 years. I've been working more in documentaries, although I work in drama as well. But my previous documentary was a film called Adele's Wish, which is the story of Maria Altman and her suing Austria to regain some Clint paintings that were stolen during the Second World War. And it's the story that Woman in Gold was based on. So I don't know if any of you saw that with Helen Mirren. So that was a documentary basically sort of unveiling all the sort of backstory to what happened in that movie. And in fact, coincidentally, Parviz had seen that film because somebody had given him a copy, and he actually asked to meet me because he'd seen it and liked it. And so that doesn't happen very often. So it was kind of nice. So thank you very much.